25-year-old NFL player B.J. Thompson suffered a seizure and went into cardiac arrest during a team meeting. I have the latest updates on his condition. The internet has erupted with clapbacks and congratulations for Eboni K. Williams, who said she is proud to be a single mom by choice. So from one single mom to another, I will give you my thoughts on that. Also, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds has some interesting things to say about Jim Crow that is causing the liberals, the left, to have a serious meltdown. The irony in his statements is alarming. We'll talk about that as well. Former President Donald Trump did a tell-all interview with an unlikely interviewer, Dr. Phil. He's pissing off all the right people. What did they discuss? We've got all the highlights. So hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for today's hot hype on The Quisha King Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Quisha King Show. I am your host, Quisha King, and we've got some jaw-dropping stories for you today. But before we get into all of that, so my kids are out of school. Some of you probably still have kids in school, especially if you are up north. I think you guys are still in school. But down here in Florida, the kids are out of school and they are already talking about where are we going to go today? What are we going to do today? And I don't know about you, but when the kids are home all day, my kids are in a co-op, a homeschool co-op. So they go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so when they are home during the summer, every day they expect, like to do all of these things, and they eat a lot more. And with inflation and all of that, it's like, your grocery bill, everything goes up sky high. You got your light bill increases, the grocery bill increases, they want to go somewhere every day. They just want to party all the time. They don't be understanding that mom still has to work. So I don't know about you. What are your kids asking you? Do you guys go through this when it comes summertime? Do you have like fun packed days every day? I don't know. I've never had that. My childhood was not like that. But I don't know. These kids, they just think every day is supposed to be like, we're supposed to be going here, going there, doing this and doing that. Before we get into the show, I do want you guys to know that I have a new t-shirt design for you. Some new merch. Look at this. It says free indeed. Whom the sun sets free is free indeed. So check it out. If you would like to grab your free indeed shirt, go ahead and click that link below and get you a cute shirt. All right, so first up, let's talk about the scary moment during a NFL team meeting where B.J. Thompson, he is 25 years old. He suffered a seizure and went into cardiac arrest. So basically he had a heart attack. A 25-year-old having a heart attack. And he's in the NFL, like, NFL players are in really good shape. And I'm sorry, 25-year-olds just do not have heart attacks like that. But if you do remember, there was, do you remember Damar Hamlin? He was the guy, the football player. He was 25. I think he was around the same age, 25. He's 26 now. But he actually went into cardiac arrest on the field. Take a look at this.
As they brought the stretcher out, they have that backboard out. Damar Hamlin is the one who was in on that.
So it's not any wonder that it's kind of, it makes you really think about these mRNA shots where you have these 25 and 26-year-old healthy young men just going into cardiac arrest. This is not normal. And this is the second one that Damar Hamlin, that happened last year. Here we are. We have another one. And they were in a team meeting. They weren't even like being rough on the field or anything. They were just having a meeting, according to the story. And he collapses, and thank God his teammates were there. Somebody was there to help him, to get help for him, because imagine if he would have been home by himself or anything, like driving, God forbid. I mean, just any any kind of thing where he was like alone or could have harmed other people. But this is something that it's a bit too much. It's happening a bit too much to young people. 25-year-olds just do not have heart attacks like this. But in a statement from the team says, Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman BJ Thompson is awake and responsive one day after suffering a seizure and going into cardiac arrest during a special teams meeting. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported on Friday, per Thompson's agent. Chiefs Vice President of Sports Medicine and Performance Rick Burkholder told reporters on Friday that Thompson was heavily sedated at a local hospital on Thursday and overnight following the incident, and was on a ventilator overnight to assist with his breathing. But that has since been removed. He's awake and he's alert, Burkholder said. He's headed in the absolute right direction. Burkholder explained the scary situation on Thursday and noted that the kicker, Harrison Butker, you guys remember Harrison, he was just giving a speech at that college, I forget what it was, but the college, everybody was all up in arms about him saying, men should be men, and get married, have kids, be responsible, do hard things, such controversy things, all the feminists and all the crazy leftists were up in arms about him actually saying, go out and do something with your life and make something of yourself. Of course, they don't want you to do that. That would be too much like right. But he was actually there when his teammate collapsed. And he alerted the medical staff of Thompson's condition when the seizure began. Burkholder said that the staff had to perform CPR on Thompson and use a defibrillator one time after he went into cardiac arrest. That means that his heart stopped. Like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. This is too much. Too much. But our players, our security staff, everybody involved, coaches and staff said they were phenomenal in handling the crisis, Burkholder said. But Burkholder added that the league mandates teams practice their emergency action plans multiple times a year, and the Chiefs just happened to conduct an exercise on Monday. That's a tough situation. I've been through a couple of those in my time, and it's never fun. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid told reporters on Friday, thank goodness, though, if it had to happen, no better place than right here where he had the support that knows what to do. Well, God be with Mr. BJ Thompson, and prayerfully they can figure out what's going on with his body. I'm sure his family is very concerned. I mean, that's concerning because 25-year-olds just do not have heart attacks. So do you guys remember Eboni K. Williams? Eboni was the woman that said that she would not date a bus driver unless he owned the bus. Well, she is now pregnant and celebrating her single mom pregnancy by choice, according to her. She did IVF treatments, and she opens up about the process with People Magazine. And of course, we have to have the obligatory naked pregnancy photos. I mean, she's a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous woman. I mean, you can't really, she's a beautiful woman, but it's just so sad, that she has followed all the feminist rules where you focus on your career. You don't worry about getting married or getting, you don't worry about the family until you about can't even have kids anymore. And where a man probably wouldn't want to have to deal with all of that because you are now so far along in your career. A lot of men don't really see themselves fitting into all of that. Well, she talks to People Magazine, and of course she does, all the baby photos, and she does all the classic, typical baby photos. Here she is in white. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She's 40 years old, I believe. So she got a sperm donor and she promotes this as being something good. So I was thinking, I was like, since Father's Day is coming up, when her kid gets older, what is she going to tell the child? It's a little baby girl. So what are you going to tell your kid when Father's Day is coming around? Like, are you going to celebrate yourself? Like, are you going to, like, what are you going to do? What?
They're gonna say, happy Father's Day to my mom because she had to play both roles. That's what they're gonna say.
I mean, she really, truly is a beautiful woman. And I mean, these are pretty pictures, but it makes me sad for her. She says, I've wanted to pursue the single motherhood by choice journey for the past 2 years, and I'm so blessed to be here now. But I'm also not deaf to how extraordinarily stigmatized it still is, says Williams. My mother, Gloria, raised me all by myself and did so in an era at a time where being a single mother in this country, especially a Black single mother, was one of the most disgraceful things you could do. And in the span of a generation, that's shifted to where women like me are not just embracing it, but also choosing it. Okay, girl. Like, first of all, let's just keep it all the way 100. Removing the stigma. Eboni, girl, when we look around and we see all the single parent homes in Black American lives, like in America with Black folks, the stigma is gone. Okay. There's so many Black women who have babies unmarried, out of wedlock. What stigma, boo? What stigma are you trying to remove? There is no stigma. Nobody says anything about Black women having babies. You are so comfortable with it. You're on the cover of People magazine. Like, if there was a real stigma, you would not be on the cover of People magazine. You wouldn't be, you're not breaking any molds here. You are not doing anything innovative, girl. 75% of Black homes are led by single moms, period. So you're not exactly doing anything groundbreaking. You're actually perpetuating a devastating reality that has wreaked havoc among Black Americans. Okay. So, from one single parent who was married and now divorced, this is not what you want. I know they make it, you've glamorized that you're on the cover of People magazine. You got your baby pictures. You're doing the classic naked photo. You're doing all of that stuff. You're trying to glamorize something that's not glamorous. It's not cute. It's not sexy. And it's not the move to have children out of wedlock, especially by choice. We've seen all the statistics of what happens to women who have what happens to kids that grow up without fathers, and you're choosing to do this. You sound real crazy. You sound real crazy. You don't sound like you're an attorney. You don't sound like you're a judge. You don't sound like you have a great education, and you don't sound like you're ready to be a parent, because that's honestly a bad choice. Anyway, this is what she's decided to do. But she had some other things to say about marriage. Let's take a look at this.
We have a lot of young ladies out here that are men in skirts. I look as feminine as possible because I am trying to overcompensate. I'll own it. I'll be vulnerable. I am trying to visually overcompensate for what I know is a default masculine posture that I walk through the world with every day. Of course I do. You see my taxes. No, I mean, but for real, I got a payroll, and so when you are leading in this way, when you are providing not just for yourself, but for those around you, your whole community, how are you not masculine in your energy?
I feel bad for Eboni because here, let me say it like this. At least she is self-aware that she does lead and walk around in masculine energy, which is a big turnoff for men. Like most men don't want that. They don't want the boss chicks. I mean, not at home. If you want to do all that stuff like outside of the home, okay, but you've got to know when to turn that thing off, because you can't have you can't have two captains. You know what I mean? You need a president and a vice president. You need two separate entities that are taking care of two separate things that are coming together to facilitate one home. And if you both are walking in masculine energy, if you're both trying to be men, I don't think that a heterosexual man is going to want that. They don't. We see it. We know it. They say it. We don't listen to them, especially Black women. We have a problem. And I mean, at least she's willing to admit it, that she's walking around in masculine energy. She's paying taxes. I got a payroll. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, on one hand, it sounds like she wants to be boastful about it, but on the other hand, it sounds like she wants to try to apologize for it, and she doesn't really want that for herself. I honestly think, I believe that she sees the error, but doesn't really know how to fix it. I really do. I mean, she knows she said, I walk around like super feminine, because I'm so masculine. Like my energy is so masculine. So I'm trying to mask my masculinity by throwing on a dress. It's like transgender reversed. Like I'm a woman, but I'm walking in all this, I'm a man, but I'm going to throw on a dress to try to help conceal who I really am. You know what I mean? And I feel bad for her. I really do, because she probably would have been a great wife and mother if she would have been able to grow up in a society, in an environment that supported marriage, that supported a two-family home, a nuclear family. She goes on to say this as well.
Being married and being a wife in and of itself has no intrinsic value. So that means
So let me stop her right there. She says being married and being a wife has no intrinsic value, meaning that it has no value in and of itself, value all on its own. It's funny that she uses the term intrinsic value, because that is typically a term used for economic, or in economics, when it comes to gold, silver, money, real estate. But when you're talking about marriage and a wife, she doesn't understand the value that brings in a society to even facilitate you having the best financial life. It doesn't, when you have a household that can support your husband, and he can go out and do all the things that he needs to do without all the stress of everything else, you're going to live a better financial life. Or in today's time, there are many families that two people do work. That is not the best plan, because who's home raising the children? But it is, if you can properly do that, it is meaning you in your correct role as a wife, you in your correct role as a husband. If you can properly do that, your children can still have a better outcome than there just being one person in the home, even when it comes to finances. And so her take on this is that, it doesn't have intrinsic value, when it is one of the most valuable things in our society. It is one of the most valuable things in our society, because if you don't have a stable family, meaning a husband and a wife, not meaning you just got your boyfriend or your baby daddy just living with you, or y'all just living together, but there is a proclamation, an outward, a commitment that says we are a union. We are a union, and this is a protected family. And so when you have those things, it produces stable children. Just look around, so this idea that it's not intrinsically valuable, that is ridiculous. And it's so dangerous to society. This idea that you can just go on and function as a woman, and just have babies and you don't need a man and there's all of this stuff. We have the evidence already. We already have the evidence that that is not the best thing for society. And yet and still we have someone who is pushing this idea that it is not intrinsically valuable when it absolutely is.
I am not willing, nor am I incentivized to give a lot in order to have those capacities.
Right.
But I think that's not common. I think most women, especially Black women, do desire nuclear family. I think they do desire it. Now, here's where it gets complicated, to your point, Melissa. What they're not so desirous of it that they are willing to do it under any and all circumstances, as the generation previous to them had to do.
Okay, well, I am glad she acknowledged that. That is her take. And most women do desire a nuclear family, because most women do desire a nuclear family. But a lot of women have bought into this idea that I don't need a nuclear family as well, because hence the reason why she's on the cover of People magazine. Hence the reason why people are bigging her up about her, IVF, and I'm a single woman and I'm having a baby and I'm proud to do so. It's by choice and all the things she's saying. Society has, in many ways, supported the glorification of the single mother. And as a single mother, I can tell you, it is not the bomb. It is not the thing that you want. And so I'm glad she acknowledges that that is sort of her opinion, and that other Black women in particular do want these things, but not at the expense, of other things.
So now what you've got is a generation of Black women that say, listen, I would love to not be the breadwinner. I would love to take my money that I make as a nurse, my money that I make as a school principal, my money that I might even make as an attorney, and put it in the kitty, put it towards something.
She's saying like, the previous generation, they had to do this thing. I don't remember my grandparents, I don't have this, there's this idea that, the previous generation, like women were just so put upon and they didn't have any say and they were just so abused and it was just so terrible. And like my grandmother, I don't remember, her being like terrified of my grandfather. This idea that like the previous generations, the women they just suffered so tremendously. This is a lie. There was actually people, when this feminist movement was coming out, there were women at the time, wives and mothers, saying, we do not want this. Our lives are completely fine. So here again, we have a minority of women trying to say what is good and right for the majority of society, because it's a popular opinion, because it's the thing that's being pushed in front of us all the time. It doesn't mean that it's popular, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's right. People are trying to say, oh, the previous generations, like they had to just deal with these, these cavemen, woman beaters, like they were just so terrible. No, it was good that you stuck together. It was good that you saw that it was, you valued your family and there was loyalty to your family. They're trying to make that loyalty to family a bad thing. It is not bad to be loyal to your family, that you stick it out with your family, that you are, that it is y'all against the world. That's not a bad thing. But now that women, they feel like they have all these other options and choices, that because the world says, oh, this is better over here, you're willing to abandon the family, the principles, and all of the stability that brings to this idea of happiness that ain't even real happiness. All these women out here who are saying like, oh, I would rather have, be by myself than stick it out with a man and all this other stuff. You're saying that because you're not 75 and alone with your cat. You're saying that because you cannot foresee the future down the road, the loneliness that brings, the instability that brings. So yeah, you could say that now because you haven't experienced. And quiet as it's kept, a lot of these women who are out here talking about feminism and I can do it by themselves. Yeah, they were marching during the day and carrying their behinds right home to their husbands at night while telling y'all to be an independent woman, just like Beyonce. Oh, all the single ladies. But where's she going? To her husband, to her family, because people in higher socioeconomic levels, they understand family. That's why you don't see a whole lot of divorce when it comes to people in higher higher class of people. I'm not talking about celebrities. I'm talking about regular people who do better in society. They tend to be married.
Instead, though, what they're being forced to do, y'all, many of them, because we all know these women, they're being forced to put the family on their back. They're being forced to pay all the bills, do most of the child care, and turn a blind eye to you out here in these streets.
No, most women are not being forced to put everything on their back. They are choosing to carry the weight because they are leaving their marriages. The ones who do even happen to get married, or they're not requiring a marriage before I bear your child. They're not requiring these things. So you're not even getting with a guy of good caliber anyway. This is all nonsense. And we can listen to this woman and pretend like we can listen to her and pretend like she's telling the truth, or we can actually look at the truth and go with the truth and walk in truth. Now, she's mad about her man picker. Like, your man picker is broke and it needs some calibration. Now, that's not the men's fault. Like, men are going to do what you allow them to do. So if you are, you're talking about a man being out here in these streets and all of that, I mean, but you're picking the man that's out here running the streets. I mean, if that's what you're getting, that's what you're picking and keeping. And so you don't have to pick the guy who wants to run the streets. You can actually pick the guy who, has character and who has values and standards and morals and believes the same things that you believe. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to do everything perfectly. It doesn't even mean that there's no guarantee, but don't go around picking the guy who lacks character. Let's start there. Okay. And, she says, she would love to not have to be the breadwinner. Would you though? Would you? Could you? Because if you're not the breadwinner, then that means you have to give up power. That's what that means. That means it means you have to give up the kind of power that the world has told you that you're supposed to have being a woman, being a wife, I should say, being a wife and a mother. You have to give up those things, meaning you can't rule over him. I know you're going to want to. The Bible tells us that that's what we're going to want to do because of sin. Our sin nature is going to make us want to rule over our husbands, or, in her case, a man who, any man that has real character and who's going to have morals and values, he's not going to deal with that. So would you be even able, if God sent you the perfect guy, he was a leader, he was this and that, and he was able to fully take care of you, and you could put your money in the kitty as you say you wanted to do, could you be led by him? Because men who do those roles well, they have requirements. They do. And so, are you going to be able to be led? And I will tell you, being a single mother for so long and now having a fiance who is one of those types of men who is a provider, he's a protector. There are certain things that he doesn't like. He has requirements. There are things that he expects and things like that. And he does not, he's not going to tolerate he wouldn't tolerate me trying to do his job. He wants me to be comfortable and love doing my job. And he understands that when he's doing his job and I'm doing mine, and that union that God has put together, it functions so well like that. Like, he understands that and he walks in that. So he wouldn't never tolerate somebody who's trying to walk over him and trying to, tell him, how to run things and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that he doesn't ask for my input and my opinion, or he definitely does. I don't feel like my voice is being silenced or anything like that. He actually respects my opinion. He actually wants to hear from me. But at the same time, I understand my role, he understands his role, and so we function really well. But if I was trying to do what he does, he would be turned off by that. And if he was trying to do what I do, I sure enough would not want any kind of man who wants to do what I do. Okay? How you doing? So, speaking on the state of Black Americans and the family, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds has sent the left into an utter meltdown. Let's take a look. But remember when Kamala Harris brought her crazy tail down here to Florida, and she was trying to tell parents and trying to tell our schools and say that, Governor Ron DeSantis, he's telling Black folks that Black people the slaves benefited from slavery, like slavery was good.
And while they do this, check it out. They push forward revisionist history. Just yesterday in the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery.
Well, Byron Donalds who knew and spoke highly of this public school, who spoke highly of this curriculum at one point in time, started to backtrack because DeSantis was in the primary with former President Trump, and Trump was his guy. Of course, he's, it's no secret he wants to be vice president. So, he had to make sure his guy, Trump, looked good. So he was trying to go after DeSantis, and he sided with Kamala Harris in a lie. Now, it would be one thing if you side with somebody who's telling the truth, but you were siding with Kamala and her idea.
Slavery was terrible in our country. It was terrible for Black people coming to America, and it was just flat out wrong, no doubt about that.
Slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Donalds told me, yes, that section needs some adjustments.
And her spinning that this curriculum stated that slaves benefited from slavery to imply that, slavery was good for Black people. Well, in a strange twist of things, now the left is doing that to him. So he recently said this in a talk that he was giving.
You see, during Jim Crow, the Black family was together. That's right. During Jim Crow, more Black people were not just conservative, because Black people always have been conservative-minded, but more Black people voted conservatively.
So now the same people that he was trying to apologize for and cape with and, protect Trump and do all this stuff, because he wanted to, throw some shade at DeSantis, those same people they have turned on him. They have turned on him, and they are now saying that he is doing the same thing, saying that Jim Crow was good for Black people. Now, as we can see, that's not what he said. What he said was, during Jim Crow, Black families happened to be together more than they are now. I mean, that's just a fact. Black families, but you can't state facts to, these crazy people on the left, because anytime that you don't make Black people completely and utterly oppressed at every single day, every point in history that, there was nothing good that ever happened to Black people at any time, and there's still nothing happening for and to Black people in America, even up into today in 2024. They want you to believe that are going to walk outside of your house if you're Black, and there's going to be a mob of white people standing there ready to, burn a cross in your yard, hang you, and do all the other things. That's what they want you to believe. They don't want you to have any type of hope. They don't want you to have any positive outlook on your own life. They want you to believe that in 2024, your life is completely and utterly in shambles, and you are completely and utterly every day, every waking minute oppressed by white people, which we know is not true. And so he was just simply stating that Black families were more intact during Jim Crow than they are today. That's a fact. But the left doesn't care about that. That is why I had my beef with Byron when he said that, because why in the world would you, it wasn't worth throwing DeSantis under the bus to try to side with the left just so you can appear to be standing closer to Trump. Silly. Now they're doing the same exact thing to you. You never cave to the people, especially on a lie. You didn't even have to do that. So now it just, it's not a good look. It's just not a good look, because now it's like, you're willing to push narratives that just aren't true, for a political side. All this stuff, when the rubber hits the road and he's willing to side with the left, he's willing to lie, basically, and paint narratives that just aren't true when it's convenient for him. That's just not, I don't want that in a statesman. I want a real statesman, just like these are the facts, and let the chips fall where they may. In other news, a very surprising pairing with former President Donald Trump and, of all people, Dr. Phil. I mean, Dr. Phil has been kind of like giving it to the people exactly how it needs to be said these days. I remember when I was on the Dr. Phil show, and my friend James Lindsay was trying to tell Dr. Phil that BLM wanted to tear down the nuclear family, and Dr. Phil leaned over to me and he said, "What is he talking about?" And I said, "Dr. Phil, it's true." He was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, it was on their website and then they took it down." And he just sat back in his chair and he was just like, "Huh." And so I'm like, I'm very, very happy to see Dr. Phil, who is, I would say, part of the mainstream media, who is standing up for truth. And he's been doing it over and over and over with his the new shows that he's been coming out with, putting the left, showing who they really are. I'm really happy to see that. But here are a few highlights from that interview. This last one particularly is very, I think it's very insightful. I think is heartfelt from Trump, which we kind of don't really see a lot of heartfelt stuff from Trump. But what he's saying is right, and whether he knows it or not is actually biblical. He's saying, you just got to keep going, and you take the good with the bad, and the bad will pass. The Bible talks about joy comes in the morning. Whenever you're going through, to stand tall. Whenever the enemy is trying to throw different things at you, you stand, and this too shall pass. That's ultimately what Donald Trump is saying, that this too shall pass. And I think that is a very hopeful. I think it is a very unifying and a great message that America needs to hear in this time of division, when it seems like everything is going crazy. And I am not one of these people who will say, we just need to come together, and we got to come together with foolishness and evil and wickedness. I am not saying that we have to come together with that. But what we can do is come together on the things that are right and good, and know that God is still in control, and these things, this too shall pass, and God gets all the glory and he gets the victory. So thank you for that, President Trump. All right, you guys. So wrapping it all up, do you remember that movie, Death Becomes Her? It was with Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, and Meryl Streep. I remember it. I think it came out like in 1992 or something like that. And it was funny. It was a funny, quirky movie about these two women who wanted to look younger, darling. They wanted to look young and they wanted to slim up their bodies and be all hot and sexy. And so they were willing to do anything to do it. And so they took this poison, and it made them look young for a moment, but let's just say there were some adverse side effects. Okay. And so they just started to fall apart, and they, you know, their bodies were all like falling apart because this stuff, you know, it was some crazy, the ingredients, it wasn't clear. It's kind of like something that happened a few years ago where they really want to tell you all the ingredients that was in there, but those ladies, they did not care. They was just like, give it to me, I'll take it. And so it's kind of like, you know, Ozempic before Ozempic, you know, just give it to me right there. Michelle Williams, former Destiny's Child group member with Beyonce and Kelly Rowland. She plays Viola Van Horn, who makes this potion to give to the ladies. I just want to point out her amazing vocals in her performance. Check this out.
A little touch of magic in a world obsessed with science. For those who'd pay the price, what would you sacrifice for fame, freedom, sex, money, repentance, retention, acceptance, ascension, more power, more potential, more attention, more revenge. If you want perfection, take a sip and drink it. Kill your whole complexion. Welcome to the brand new state. I have a secret you would die for.
Ma'am, the vocals on point. What a phenomenal voice she has. I know we laugh about some of Michelle's performances and just how she sounds on some of the Destiny's Child records, but she kills it in Chicago on Broadway. So shout out to you, Michelle Williams. She killed it. Well, everyone, that is all for today's show of the Quisha King Show. Thank you so much for watching. I love you for watching. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can keep up when we are dropping the next episode so you never miss an update. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. I would love to know what you think. We love to hear from you. So until next time, stay informed and stay free. I love you for watching.